If you think your life is hard, you haven't heard mine. I've carried pain for as long as I can remember, and today I'm finally going to tell you everything. From the moment I was born, life seemed determined to make me suffer. My family, my husband, my in-laws. Every step of the way, I faced heartbreak, betrayal, and disappointment. And I survived. Somehow, I survived. I remember being a little girl, innocent, hopeful, believing that the world would love me back. My parents, they loved me in their own way, but it was never enough. My father, he was always angry, always impatient. My mother, she was there, but not really there. I learned early that I had to hide my tears, hide my voice, just to survive in my own home. Every birthday, every holiday, I put on a smile, pretending I was happy. But inside, I was invisible. I was nothing. My childhood wasn't just lonely, it was exhausting. I felt like I had to earn love, that if I made a single mistake, I'd be punished, ignored, or worse, forgotten. I watched my siblings get attention, their mistakes forgiven, while mine were magnified. And no matter how hard I tried, I could never measure up. I remember nights crying myself to sleep, wondering why I was even here, why I was different, why I wasn't enough. I grew up fast, maybe faster than I should have. By the time I was a teenager, I realized that life didn't care about fairness or dreams. I saw my friends laughing, living freely, while I felt trapped in a world that didn't see me. I wanted to speak, to say something, anything. But my words fell into a void, and every day I felt smaller, quieter, like I was disappearing. I learned early that I couldn't depend on anyone. Not my parents, not my siblings, not anyone. I had to fight for myself, or nobody else would. Then came love, or what I thought was love. I believed marriage would be my escape, my chance to finally have someone who would see me, hear me, love me for who I was. But it wasn't like that. My husband, he had his own demons, and somehow I became a target for them. The kindness I craved was replaced with criticism, disappointment, and sometimes cruelty. Every day I wore a mask, smiled through the cracks, pretended everything was fine. I didn't want to admit that I was trapped. I didn't want to admit that love could hurt this much. I remember the early days, thinking if I just loved harder, if I just tried harder, he would see me. But it never happened. No matter how much I gave, how much I sacrificed, how much I bent myself, it was never enough. And slowly, I started losing myself. The person I was before marriage, the person who dreamed, who laughed, who believed in love, that person began to fade. I was drowning quietly, and nobody noticed. And then, there were the in-laws, people who should have been welcoming, kind, supportive. But instead, they made me feel like I didn't belong anywhere. Judgments, constant criticisms, impossible expectations. I learned to bend, to break, to disappear. I remember wishing I could just vanish, that maybe the world would be kinder if I wasn't here. But I stayed. I endured their words, carried their expectations, all while my own heart was breaking silently. Life continued, and the pain never really stopped. There were moments of happiness, yes, fleeting moments where I thought maybe, just maybe, things would get better. But happiness was always temporary, always fragile. The good days were so few, and the bad days, they were relentless. I began to understand something about life. It doesn't care about fairness. It doesn't care about how good your heart is, how much you try, how much you suffer. Life is Life is what happens to you, and it's cruel sometimes. And I had to survive it. I've cried in silence for so many years. I've begged for relief, for love, for kindness, and often, it never came. I've been hurt by the people I trusted most, by the ones I thought would never abandon me. I've watched dreams I held onto so tightly crumble into dust. I've experienced betrayal, loneliness, neglect, disappointment, and still I survived. Somehow I survived. There were times I wondered if it was worth it. If surviving was even a victory when the life I lived felt so hollow, so heavy, but I kept going. Because what choice did I have? I kept waking up, putting one foot in front of the other, holding on to the tiniest sparks of hope that maybe tomorrow, tomorrow would be different. As the years went by, I learned lessons I wish I hadn't had to learn. I learned that love is not always safe, that family doesn't always protect you, that people you trust can hurt you the most. That silence can feel louder than any scream. But I learned that survival itself is a kind of strength, that even when life breaks you, even when the world turns its back, you can keep going. You can still breathe. You can still fight. You can still be. And now here I am, older, perhaps wiser, carrying scars that will never fully heal. But I speak. I tell my story. I refuse to be silent anymore. Because for every child who felt invisible, for every person who was ignored, for everyone who has suffered alone, I speak for you. Your pain matters. Your story matters. And if my life teaches you one thing, it's this. You can survive. You can speak. You can be heard. I've lived through so much: childhood neglect, marital pain, family pressure, the kind of loneliness that eats at your soul. I've experienced betrayal, heartbreak, disappointment, countless moments where I thought I couldn't go on. And yet, here I am, still breathing, still talking, still telling my story. Because if I can survive all of that, maybe you can too. I want to tell you something very important. Pain does not define you. Suffering does not have to break you. The world may have taken much from me, but it has not taken my voice. It has not taken my courage. And it will not take my story. And neither will it take yours. No matter how broken, no matter how hurt, you can survive. You can speak. You can live. I am older now, yes. Older and perhaps a little tired. But I am here. And I will speak. I will speak for the child I was, for the woman I was forced to become, and for the woman I still am today. I will speak because every voice matters, every story matters, every life matters. And if you are listening, know that you are not alone. Your pain is real. Your story is real. And it deserves to be heard. I've survived a lifetime of suffering. I've endured more than most could imagine. And today, I share it with you. Because survival is not just about existing. It is about reclaiming your voice, your life, your story. And that is worth everything. So, to anyone who has ever felt silenced, ignored, or broken, I see you, I hear you, and your life, your story, it matters. Survive, speak, live, and know you are not alone. No matter what the world has done to you, no matter how deep the pain, survival is always possible, and I am living proof. I have lived a lifetime of suffering, and yet, here I am, still standing, still speaking, still surviving. And if you take one thing from my story, let it be this: survive, speak, and never, ever let the world take your story away.